Okay, so you guys better be prepared for a lot of really strange top 10s and a lot of Pokemon related top 10s because I got a lot of different things I could say, and I always kind of put it off because at the time I didn't really have the means to record it. Now I can say I've got the means to record about half of it, and that's about it. So let's start with probably the strangest one of all, but you know what? Because I want to and I can. The top 10 fainting animations of Pokemon. The reason I'm making this is because, like, a lot of people kind of complain about it and say that it's dumb or whatever, but I liked it. I always felt like it added a charm and a personality to the already existing characters. That was one of my favorite things as a kid, was watching how they would come out, animate, all the different idle animations, attacks they had, the way they die. I was fascinated by all of it, so that's kind of why I want to do this list. And it's a rumor that Pokemon Stars is going to be out. So if that's a thing, I hope that they would at least continue the trend that they started back in Coliseum, XD, Stadium, Stadium 2, etc., opposed to the half-assed attempt they put in Omega Ruby and Sun and Moon. So starting off at the bottom of the list, because I originally had it written down, but then I was like, yeah, I won't record this until I get the fainting animation video for Coliseum and XD done. And now that I've done it, I do realize that there was one that I exempted from my list that I liked more than some of the other ones I had on there, and that'd be Wingull. Just because it just fits so perfectly. Like, I do feel like as things went on, it kind of got a little bit more elaborate. And Wingull was one of those simple ones where it's like an airplane spiraling out of control, and it's just perfect. It fits well. I like it. One of the recurring trends you're going to notice in this one is going to be the phrase "from my childhood," because that's kind of where most of it comes in. Like, I always loved it, always thought it was super fascinating or interesting. And I remember before I got the game, one of my friends had it and he'd show it off to me and all that. And that's kind of what helped get me into Pokemon and got me super interested. And one of the ones I remember in particular him showing me was the one of Jinx, where Jinx disappears, her hair's left behind. Haha, that's great. It was funny for like a 6-year-old kid. It was great. But I don't necessarily like the idea that they changed that animation and just kind of did away with it. I don't even know why they did that, because there's like nothing worth censoring about it. There's nothing offensive about it, so that's what makes the change in it really stupid, which is also kind of why it places low on this list. But it entertains me. So I really had to look to try and make sure the ones in Hoenn were good. And the one that I felt stood out, like the first one that came to mind, was Banette. So it's just, again, it's really simple. He's a puppet, so what happens is mouth opens up and he unzips. I also like that they did that with this Mega Evolution too, where he'd unzip more. But yeah, I just like that one. It's one of those simple things where, like, when you think of how these characters are designed, you can work with the material that you have, and that's why I think this is so much more interesting than certain other games. The rate we're going, this is going to be a really short video, but here's one I can actually explain to a little bit of depth. So, for starters, Hitmontop I think is an incredibly unique Pokemon and very, very cool and conceptual, because it takes a simple concept as balance and then physically creates that. So yeah, a spin top, like, that's genius. Like, if you told me balance, I would have thought like of a scale, not of a spin top, and that's what makes it so cool. So the idea of Hitmontop as a Pokemon is super awesome. And what makes the fading animation so cool to me is just the fact that, like, you're so used to seeing him upside down that when he does fade, he actually stands up for that brief second, and you see him normally. But to think that that would be abnormal is what makes it more interesting. But yeah, it works so well. It flows. It's perfect. There you go. Here's another one that kind of cheats a little bit because it falls through the family. But if I had to pick one in particular, it would probably be Kadabra. But the entire Abra family, I was always entertained by the way they'd go out. I remember Kadabra being the one that, like, my friend showed me. He's like, haha, look at this. He hits himself in the head with a spoon. Like, yeah, it's cute, but I don't know, just something about all three of them. Like the way Abra kind of panics and has a little dance and then just ends with his little closed pose. Like Alakazam, like, goes his last breath and then falls forward, then the spoon falls over. I like it. There's character to it. It's interesting. I like those ones. Alright, so here's another one that I decided to edit and change things up a bit. And that's because Unown has over 28 different fainting animations that it felt like a crime to, like, just not include it, because so many of them are so different and unique and interesting and very unknown, for lack of a better term. So I really wanted to give its praise here. My favorite one is the H, because I like how it rolls kind of like a quarter does, but it's so good, it's so clever. Why is it so unpopular? I mean, I know why. I feel bad for the poor bastards who spent all this time animating something that nobody but me will ever really see. Alright, so this one I actually didn't remember at first, and then I felt like a dumbass for forgetting about it, because in my opinion it's probably one of the best ones yet. And this could be Jigglypuff, because the idea is that it's the balloon Pokemon, even though it hardly resembles a balloon. And we got more realistic balloon interpretations like Driftwood. But that was one of the better ones, is the idea that it's defeated, and then it just completely deflates and then flows away like paper bag, and that's great. So that's one of those things where, like, if they changed that, it would just feel so empty without it because it's so perfect. And it was entertaining as a kid, and it still entertains me now. This one I don't really think I cared about so much as a kid, but as an adult I kind of appreciated it more and just thought it was more funny the longer it kind of went on. That's going to be Electro, just because I like the way he kind of fakes you out. Like, yeah, his eyes pop out, that's great. But then, like, after like a few seconds, he looks to see if you're still looking. He's like, oh yeah, I'm dead. Sorry, guys. So I like that, just like a little joke. And that's another one of those things where, like, if they shortened it or if they eliminated it, it just feels like they would lose something of importance. And I don't want them to lose that. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but like as the games have progressed, they've gotten shorter and shorter. Like they shortened it for Coliseum, and then they shortened it even more for XD, and it just feels like such a loss. This one I remember being hilarious as a kid, and that is Dratini, just because it, like, again, there's only so much you can say about this stuff, but yeah. It turns into a stick, and then it falls down, and it just, like, it creates so many stupid little kid jokes, like, haha, go play fetch, or dog, or anything of the sort. So I like that one. Nothing has quite come close to the same vein as what they did with Dratini, because like they don't do any sort of dumb jokes like that with any of their Pokemon. The rest of them, it's like, oh, I fell over, but Dratini was just over the top as hell, and that's why I like that one so much. And then lastly, we're gonna go with Porygon. Porygon's been one of my favorites for as long as I can remember. I always liked the way it sounded, its little cry. To me, Porygon always resembled like a thing of wooden blocks, like toys, but the idea that it's supposed to be like a virtual data comprised Pokemon, it's supposed to be like hard polygons, that never quite stood to me. So when he would faint and then he'd fall apart piece by piece, like, to me that's what helped solidify it. I'm like, this is a toy, this is wooden blocks, and that's kind of where I don't know, I just like it. I always liked it, I always thought it was cool. I liked that when he would do his animations, his head would pop off for a brief second. Like, I just found Porygon so interesting. So overall, it's kind of a dumb idea, but it was a dumb idea that I had and I wanted to do, and I kind of like doing the dumb ideas that it's like, hey man, no one else does this, even though I'm sure people have done something like this. But the point of me doing this was because I think these kinds of things matter to a degree. I don't understand the idea of like, hey man, I don't like this, make it shorter, like it's breaking from the gameplay, because it's not. It's like a maximum of maybe 5 seconds. It's not taking up much time. It doesn't break the flow of gameplay. It was never a thing that I would roll my eyes to see. It was always like one of the best parts. It's like the whipped cream on top of your ice cream or something like that. Like, it always felt worthwhile, and it always felt like it was a part of the game and exciting and all that, just to see the way they get their ass kicked, the way they animate. Maybe it was because like the idea of the difference between that and sprites, as to where now I guess kids are kind of desensitized to it. So like the DS, they'd move for a split second or whatever. But it feels like a thing that shouldn't ever go away or shouldn't change. I hope that Stars is a thing. I hope that they have proper cool animations for all 800 Pokemon. I know that's a hard chore for them to do, but guess what? They've got the template for about 480 of them, so I think they can pull it off if they want to. And it would be even more interesting to see things like the Alolan Faints or Mega Evolutions, because there's more for them to pick. And yeah, it's just, there's so many cool things you can do with it. Anyway, that's been it. So JC4R, expect more stupid top videos about nonsense later.